Are you struggling with your Roblox GFX textures in Blender? Well, let's quickly fix 5 common texture errors. Welcome back to GFXRhino. Today I will show you what causes the 5 most common texture issues, how to fix them, and how to always avoid them in the future. Let's jump right in. A purple/pink texture means Blender cannot locate your texture files. This usually happens when you move or delete the texture file from its original location after importing it into Blender. This can also happen if you move the .blend file itself for some reason. For example, I've got this texture right here and the Rhino Rig V2, which is, you can see the texture is working completely fine, but if I go ahead and move this texture out of the folder and then I go ahead and just reload it, you'll see it's now purple. The same thing also happens if I just delete the texture instead. It'll stop working, it'll go purple/pink. So the way to fix it is to essentially just get your texture back. So if you deleted your texture, you might have to go into your rubbish bin and get it back. If you moved your texture, you'll just have to move it back. You might just even have to re-download whatever it was. If it was an HDRI, they can also be purple. If it was your rig's texture, you'll just have to re-export the rig. If it was a model, you'll just have to re-download the model. And as I said with HDRIs, you'll just have to re-download the HDRI as well. And once you've got the texture back, you can just go up to the shading tab at the top, select whichever model is purple. So if this guy was purple, it would be him. And then down in this little shader editor right here, you can just click the little folder. It might also look like that. You want to click open and then find your texture and apply it, and it'll work just fine. If it was an HDRI, you'll just have to change this to world. And then in here, it should already have an environment texture set up where you can just do the same thing and reapply it. To avoid this in the future, you want to go up to File, External Data, and then there's these 3 options right here. First of all is pack resources. So what this will do is you'll see it packed 3 files. So essentially what it's doing is it's packing in this texture. So now if I delete the texture, you'll see it's working completely fine still because it's packed that texture into the blend file now. But please do note that your blend file does get a little bit bigger when you do this. So if you do have a ton of textures all packed in, it can probably make your Blender file quite big. There's also, of course, unpack resources, which you can just do it into the current directory, which you'll see now we have a textures folder that has all of the different textures. I don't know why there's a Blender kit logo. Actually, it's that right there, I think, and that X is for somewhere else. But you get the point, right? Like it unpacks your resources, your textures. I think I actually just deleted them. Yep, now I have no textures, but that doesn't matter because the final thing is, of course, the automatic one. So back to File, External Data, automatically pack resources. Just check that, and it's got the error because I deleted all the textures, but you get the point. It will pack in all of your textures automatically. So when you put in new models, it will automatically pack the textures into the blend file, so then you can just delete everything and carry on. And of course, another way to avoid this in the future is to just do what I've done and have a portfolio folder that has all these different folders for all of your different projects, and inside of those you've got each of the characters exported to separate folders, and you've got the Photoshop files, the blend files. You've got it all organized, and yeah, that just keeps it working well. The next texture error is the jumbled texture error. It won't look exactly like this, but essentially it's just when your character's texture is just not aligned right. You can see the face is on his arm for some reason. Once again, it probably won't look the exact same, but it's just messed up and jumbled. The way to fix this is in Roblox Studio, when you go to use the load character plugin, just make sure you click Spawn R6 instead of Spawn R15, unless you're using an R15 rig inside of Blender, then in that case you want to do Spawn R15. Of course, if you used another avatar importer like the rig builder under here, you want to make sure it's R6 because most rigs only accept the R6 texture. I think the next release of the starter rigs coming like early next year or something. I might be wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure it's going to have an R15 switch, which is going to be very awesome. So then you don't really need to worry about which texture type, but most of the time anyway, you do just want to make sure you use the right rig type. So if I go ahead and do Spawn R6 instead of Spawn R15, you will see now that I have a R6 version, which you can tell by the hands fine like that. So if I just export this guy, I can then now select my rig, go over to the shading tab, and it'll be under object like that. We can then go ahead and delete that and select the correct texture, which is hopefully this one. There we go. That's perfect. So the incorrect texture error is just caused by when the wrong material or wrong texture is applied to your model. This is often just because you have lots of different accessories. I've just grabbed a few from the toolbox to make this guy right here. I just gave him a bunch of different accessories, and you can see here that it's just got the wrong texture. The way to fix this is you want to go up to your shading tab and make sure your rig is selected, just the head, and then you should be able to change the texture right here. You want to click the folder, and I've got 2 textures. For me, handle 2 actually works completely fine. I've exported avatars that have had like 6 or 7 or 8 different textures, so I've had like handle 8 underscore different on PNG, and it's just absolute chaos. So really what you want to do, go into your folder and you find the one that has the right character texture. You can then apply that one, and you can see mine's handle 2 and it works fine. The same things with an accessory. So if I import the crown and it has the wrong texture, it's the same process. You just go into the shading tab and make sure it has the right texture, just like that. But if you do not have the right texture, so if you go to view and then large icons and then you don't have this one, for example, what you want to do is you just want to go ahead and delete everything, and you want to re-export everything into separate folders. So after I delete everything, I'm going to go back into Roblox Studio, right click on my character, export selection, and then in my folder I can just name this character and export it just fine. You'll see now that we have the character texture. In fact, we have the crown texture here, but let's ignore that. Let's pretend we don't, right? Then what we can do is we can export our next accessory, but what we want to do now is inside of our same folder, we're actually going to right click and go new, add a new folder. Because this is just the here, I'm going to call it here. You can literally, most of the time I'll just name it a single letter just to make it quicker, and then I'll name this here and I'll export it into a separate folder. So if we go back and we go into this folder here, it does have the same texture, but that's just because this texture does have the here texture, right? So this mainly is just applied for the crown in this example. So if I export that and we go back into here, I'm going to make once again a new folder called crown. That's crow. That works completely fine though, it doesn't matter what it's called. I'm going to name this crown, save it, and then we'll go back in here, and now we should be able to import our crown, and it will already have the textures applied. But if you pretend it didn't, like that for example, you can now just go and find your new texture and apply it just like that. So to fix the incorrect texture, you just need to export your accessories to separate folders. You don't need to export them all, because I think like this is the cowboy hat. I can tell by the texture this is like the sunglasses and the beard or whatever the hell that is meant to be. So I can kind of tell what some of the textures are, so I wouldn't need to export those to separate folders. But just to avoid confusion, just export them all to separate folders. Just export your accessories to separate folders and you should be all good. There's not really a way to avoid this issue in the future. You just kind of need to export all of your accessories and stuff, and then if it does break, you just go back and fix it. It's not really something that you can avoid in the future. Even I get it, everyone gets it. Sometimes you just have to export them into separate folders. The next error is like textures like this appearing white or gray, just messed up like that. The reason this is because inside of Roblox Studio, if I just open up the chair model I've got right here and select one of the parts, you can see you've got the brick color, which is just like the base color of it, and then you've got a material applied over top. Inside of Blender, it's the same thing. You've got, if I disconnect this color, or disconnect the texture, I mean, we've got that brick color, we've got that base color, the same color, but then when we apply the texture over top, it just doesn't, it goes white, right? And of course the reason for that is just because our texture exports just gray, just without the color, right? This happens for pretty much all of the different materials and stuff you can apply, I think, except for the plastic one, because the plastic one is just no material applied or something like that. The way to fix this is you want to select your model and you want to go into the shading tab at the top. Inside of your shading editor, we're going to move this along and we're going to add in a mix color right here, and now I'm going to connect my texture into A, and I'm going to drag the base color onto B, and then I'm going to connect the result back up to the base color, and you'll see now that it mixes the texture with the brown. You can mess around with this factor, but of course it doesn't still doesn't really work, right? So you actually want to change this right here, the mix. You want to change this to multiply, and it'll work. I thought it would work. Oh, there you go. You want to set it to 1. You want to set the factor to 1. There you go. That works fine. You may also need to go down into your material properties, and you might need to go through each of your different materials. If you have a large model, you might have a bunch of different materials under here. You'll just have to go through each of those and do the same thing. But to speed up this process a lot more, I'm just going to do Control Z a bunch of times to go back to the original chair. The way to fix this super easily is to get the add-on by Bob, which is the PBR solution add-on. You literally just click fix it right here and it'll completely fix your textures. It also does a little bit of extra stuff, like it adds, that's our old one, it adds and it does the multiply all for you. In fact, that's another thing as well. You can connect the alpha up to the factor right there. It does all of this extra stuff too, and in fact I think there's a next release of it coming out that's going to have a few extra things as well. That might even be out now, I'm not really sure, but I'll link it down in the description below. You can come here and you can just type in 0 and get it for free. After you've downloaded it, you want to go into your Blender, you want to go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and then click Install. And then you just want to select and install the file you just downloaded from that website, and then you want to click N on your keyboard to make sure it's up on the side, select the PBR solution one, and then you can select your model and click fix it, and it is super easy like that. The final texture error is one that I can't be bothered trying to recreate, but it's essentially when your accessories just appear transparent. Like, they're not completely invisible, but they might have like parts of them that are slightly transparent or just completely not visible at all, which just causes them to just look, yeah, like weirdly transparent. So the way to fix this is you want to select your accessory, your model, and you want to go up to the shading tab. Inside of here, I don't know why, we need to make sure the model is selected. Yep. It's obviously not happening with this crown, but if it were, then this is how to fix it. You just want to delete the alpha texture right there. The alpha, what it does is it just applies the alpha from the texture, and sometimes it can just be messed up or wrong. I think sometimes it could even be caused by that. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it is that. That's what's caused by it. It's the color connected up to the alpha, so you want to connect up the alpha instead. Maybe not though. I might be wrong there. It might not be the color connected up to the alpha. Either way, you don't really need this. For some accessories, you probably do. So just make sure the alpha is connected up, and if it just doesn't work, you'll just delete it and it should be fine. And that is how you fix some of the most common texture errors in Blender for Roblox GFX. Remember, staying organized with your files is probably one of the main ways you can avoid all of these textures, which is just as I mentioned earlier, having like a portfolio folder of all of your different projects and stuff. If this video is helpful at all, make sure to like, subscribe, and let me know if there's any other texture issues in the comments. I will make sure to, actually I won't make sure to, but I might make a video on them if they're important enough to cover. You can also suggest other video ideas in our Discord server and just join the Discord server in general. Yeah, I'm really trying to grow that Discord server. It's kind of dead right now, so I'm trying to grow it. Yeah, check out GFXRhino.com for completely free Roblox GFX assets, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.